What's up, YouTube? It's Bear with BearIndependent.com. There's something that I wanted to talk to you guys and girls about. We see it a lot in the preparedness community, preppers, survivalists, right? And it's this: people who are in love with their gear, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the concept that possession equates to proficiency. Because I have the things, therefore I can use the things. So I want to tell you a brief story to illustrate a point. First, caffeinate. When I was managing projects in the wind turbine industry, there were several startup courses at vocational schools in the Midwest that I was aware of, and I'm sure there were others elsewhere, that were training up people as wind turbine technicians. This was a new thing because there was an issue in the industry of service technicians. There were none. And so we had to get people trained up that after the project was installed, there were people who could come in behind us and maintain the project. Which, as a brief aside, the whole idea that renewable energy creates jobs. It's the same handful of companies that pour the concrete and dig the trenches and bend and tie the rebar and run the cranes and run the heavy equipment and climb the towers and do the electrical connections and blah, 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 right? Those aren't new jobs. Those are just jobs at different points on the map. The jobs that are created, and it takes hundreds of people to stand up a project like that, but the jobs that are created are the handful of people, right around 6 people, who will maintain that project over the lifetime of the project. So we throw billions of dollars at these projects and half a dozen jobs are created. Now, obviously, the main output of that project is energy, not jobs, but to say that we're going to create jobs with our renewable initiative is not the case. But of those half a dozen jobs that were created through billions of taxpayer dollars and private sector money as well, you had wind turbine technicians to maintain the turbines. And at the time, there were very few direct drive turbines. I think it was the Northern Power Systems NPS 100 is one of the first, and that's Votex size. That's not utility size. And there were a few others that were coming out with direct drive, but most of these things had 18-speed transmissions in them. The fluids had to be changed. The filters had to be changed, so forth and so on. So these Votex schools would train these guys and girls up to go out into the field. 14-week course on how to work on a wind turbine, right? Put your multimeter here and probe this and check this and spin this thing this way and you need this size wrench and blah, blah, blah. Cool. And they'd get done and they'd get their little piece of paper and they'd show up on site. And they'd have their little piece of paper, which more power to them, right? They'd have their little piece of paper, and they'd have their brand new tool belt and their climbing harness, fall protection harness, dual leg lanyard, rebar hooks, the whole 9 positioning lanyards. And they'd kind of look around and go, so where's the stuff? 120 meters that way, homeboy. That's where the stuff is. Very little that's in the base of that turbine. The PLC, programmable logic controller, and the emergency stop switch are down below, as well as a junction box for the electrical and the optical cable. That's it. Everything else is 380 feet that way. So these people had the training, they had the equipment, and they had the interest, and they had showed up to do the things, but they'd never climbed. Now, this was pretty quickly rectified by the vocational training industry that, hey, maybe we should teach these people to climb first. And if they can't get through the climbing portion, and I had lots of people who just simply refused or got 30 feet off the ground and froze, or got all the way up into the top of the tower and through a lack of experience and stupidity injured themselves and then had to be climbed back down again, and so forth and so on. All various different states of horrendous performance. I'd say maybe 20%, 2 out of 10, showed up, could do what was asked of them, i.e. climb. And it's not an easy feat to climb 360, 380 feet vertically, carrying, 60 pounds of gear with you and your lunch. And I hope you don't need to use the restroom, and so forth and so on. So these people would show up. They had all the training. They had all the stuff. They were ready to perform, they thought. They weren't ready. They weren't ready for the reality of it. And I use this story to make a point that we as preppers tend to focus. There is a huge movement within the industry, and yes, it's an industry, within the prepper industry, of focusing on the hard skills, man, the tactical stuff. But that stuff's hard skills. So most people buy the things, they buy the prepper equivalent of the climbing harness and the tool bag. They don't know how to use them. And then if they ever get to the point where they need to employ those pieces of equipment, the reality of the situation is, even if you've done some training, you got your piece of paper, how applicable is that training to real life, to the actuality of the situation? And so this is not an admonishment. This is encouragement that if you have zero training, you just have the stuff, please go learn how to use your stuff, because possession of the stuff does not equate to proficiency with the stuff. You can have a beautiful $400 fall protection harness and a $175 dual leg lanyard and a $200 12-foot steel core positioning lanyard and half-inch ropes and pulleys and Prusik loops and carabiners and thousands of dollars in climbing gear, your Petzl helmet and your little GoPro on the thing and your headlamp, and you can have all of that stuff. That does not make you a climber. And I've seen it over and over and over again. I've seen lots of people who have the stuff, but they can't use it, either because they don't have the training or they don't have it here. No matter how much equipment you put on this person, they don't have it here to go 380 feet that way. They don't have it here to run towards the sound of gunfire, not away from it. Okay, so possession is not proficiency. So if you possess the things, but you don't have proficiency with the things, please go get training and start with basic training, how to basically use the things. And then from there, make sure that as you move forward, the training scenarios that you're putting yourself in are as applicable to real life, not just a nice piece of paper suitable for framing, but real life scenarios. It's like standing on the ground and taking your rebar hook and hooking it into a ladder. Oh, that's how the rebar hook works. Cool. Ping, ping, ping. Oh, that's how the pistol works. Cool. Now, use it. Now start climbing. Get your heart rate up. You look down below and it's like, oh, damn. There's a semi-truck down there and it's this big. And I know that truck's 70 feet long and it's this big. Wow. Spit a sunflower seed off the side of the turbine and you can't follow it to the ground. It just keeps going and keeps going and I don't know. Okay. Now use that rebar hook 300 foot in the air, and it matters. Now use this pistol when your heart rate's up and you're moving and you have to shoot from behind cover. It matters. Or this carbine, or this tourniquet, or this radio, or this whatever, when it matters. Okay? So possession does not equate to proficiency. And make sure as you train up your proficiency that your training is applicable to real world scenarios. Get as realistic training as possible. And so I just wanted to share that with y'all this morning. I hope that this shines some light on some things for you. And yeah, thanks for being here. If you want to be here, click the subscribe button, hit that little bell icon. You can give me the thumbs up thing and the comment thing. That helps the algorithm. So bless y'all. Have a wonderful day. Bear out.